This is the Creativity for Peace podcast, number 6, entitled 1 through 8 of the Peace Monologues, created and co-produced with Project Life Stories in August 11th of 2005.
Hi, this is Rachel Kaufman, Director of Creativity for Peace, and I'd like to tell you about last summer. The girls worked with Project Life Stories. They created what we call their monologues. That's the story of their life, or a daily life living in conflict and violence, or their feelings about their homelands. And what you will see following is a sample of those monologues. Thank you very much. Make sure you visit creativityforpeace.com.
في كل مساء أحتاج للحظات صمت وحيدا أفكر ماذا أحتاج لأحلم به، لأن الأحلام في حياتنا مستحيلة فأحاول تحقيقها في الحلم. في أحلامنا أشياء مركبة، اختلاط أشياء كلها دائما صعبة المراس، قوية. في كثير من الأحيان لا أستطيع تفسيرها، وفي الأحيان الأكثر لا أتذكرها. أفلا تظنون أنه صعب على بشري أن يكون بلا ذكرى؟ أفلا يكفي أن ليس له ذكرى عن الماضي ولو قليله، وأيضا لا يذكر يوما أنه حلم مع أنه يحلم. في حياة البشرية المستحيل هو المراد، وفي حياتي أشياء بسيطة أحتاج إلى تحقيقها، ليس لنفسي ولكن لإسعاد الآخرين، ولكنها في وطننا شبه المستحيل، وفي المنام بعيدة المنال. الجميع يريد الأفضل، يطالبه، يحارب من أجله، ولا أحد يفكر لماذا أحتاج للأفضل في هذه الحياة البالية. في اعتقادي قلمي هو أرضي التي ألجأ إليها حينما أشعر بالفراغ، بالغضب، بالفرح أو بالاشتياق. أتركه يتسلل على الأوراق ليترك وراءه بصمات الشعور والإحساس، وهذا لا يعني أنني لا أحتاج إلى وطن يأويني. أحس بدفء ترابه وحرارة شمسه وحضنه الواسع. لوجود الاحتلال الإسرائيلي ألجأ إلى الآمال ليكون لي وطن واحد نقي الحكومة، جميل الشعب، سهل التنقل، وهذا لن يحدث إلا بسواعد الأجيال، وهذا لن يحدث إلا بسواعد الأجيال.
Sometimes I feel that my pen is my land. When I write, I try to write from my heart, and I feel that the words that come out of me don't only represent my feelings, but also the feelings of other people and their hearts as well. My pen is the land I go to when I feel full of anger, happiness, longing. I let the pen slow down on the sheet to leave behind the imprint of my feelings, but it doesn't mean that I don't need a physical land where I can feel safe to feel the warmth of the soil and the depth of the sun embrace me when I cry. And because of the occupation, I wish to have a wide land and clean authority and a beautiful nation with ease of movement and freedom. To my mind, it could only happen through the younger generation, our generation. Every evening, I need some quiet time by myself to think about what I need in order to just dream. But I fear that many hopes in my life are impossible to come true. So I try to reach my hopes in my dreams. In our dreams, there are so many connections, mixing so many different strands, all of them difficult to reach. Sometimes I can't even understand my dream, and most of the time I can't remember it. Do you know how hard it is for me to be without memory? Is it not hard enough to have no memory of your past and your ancestry, let alone to have no memory of your dreams, to forget the dream that you dream even when it is real? Human beings often wish impossible wishes. In my life, there are such simple things that I really need, not just for myself, but to make others happy. Still, my land lives in the shade of impossible things, things I can't reach, even in my dreams. When you want to think about this, slow your heart for a moment and try to listen to your heartbeats, and then translate those beats into words. I would need many notebooks to write about checkpoints, as they are the worst thing I have ever experienced in my life. When I left Gaza and came to America with my friends to attend the peace camp, we had to pass through a number of checkpoints. Each time, it felt like I was being robbed of my self-respect when the soldiers spoke to us slowly, forcefully, and with a teasing insolence that was so humiliating. They asked us to take some of our clothes off, and it felt like someone drained my soul. If they weren't so concerned about world opinion, I'm sure they would have asked us to undress completely, standing naked in front of everyone. This is why I thought twice about making this trip to America, because I didn't want to experience the checkpoints. They treat you worse than an animal, and you can't even know who's giving you orders. The guard speaks down to you from a tower high above the ground, so far up that you can only catch his eyes if you squint. For me, it is the worst feeling in the world to have to encounter such difficulties and endure such humiliation just to leave Gaza and wait for hours on end to pass through the checkpoint. This endless waiting is hardest for those who are ill and in need of medical treatment abroad, and some prefer to die from the sickness than languish at the checkpoint. As for me, I choose not to study in universities outside of Gaza in order not to have to pass through the checkpoints again. It is a humiliation no one would wish to experience. I hope that one day my land will be free, so I could live in it in peace and without checkpoints.
The Holocaust. Oh my God. It's too painful to write about. The first thing popping in my head is the search for revenge. I look at my grandfather and grandmother each day. I see the numbers on my grandfather's arm and I think to myself, why? So many questions are running through my head. Like, how could the world not know? How could everybody just be quiet and not do anything about it? I'm so angry. A lot of my family died in the Holocaust, and when I hear the stories about it, it's too hard. The hardest thing of all is that my grandparents do not talk about it. When there is Holocaust Memorial Day, they just turn off the TV and are quiet all day long. They light candles for all their relatives that passed away. My grandparents came from Czechoslovakia and were teenagers during the war. My grandmother was 7 years old in 1939. She was first to wear a yellow star on her clothes. The family was taken to a war camp and their older brother taken to Auschwitz. My grandmother and her family were hiding in a village, but the father of my grandmother was cut and also sent to Auschwitz. The rest of the family was killed, except for my grandmother, her younger brother, and her mother. After 50 years, my grandmother found out that her older brother was saved and living in Czechoslovakia. He had married a Christian woman and her family had saved him. 3 years ago, she reunited with him For the first time in 50 years, my grandfather was also taken to Auschwitz. When he was released at the age of 18, he weighed only 35 kilos. He somehow survived the death march. His entire family was killed, and only him, his brother and father was saved. My grandparents never talk about their experience, but when I began writing this monologue, I asked my mom, and she finally told me what happened. Maybe now I can try to understand how this happened. Well, it's not true. I could never understand. How could someone be so cruel, without soul? I guess they were just sick people, because if not, then I will lose all my beliefs in the human race. So when I think about 6 million people that were killed in all kinds of ways, I guess I just can't understand. It's so hard for me to hear people say that the Intifada is exactly the same as the Holocaust. I feel there isn't anything similar between those two things. I wish the Intifada would stop. But sometimes I just don't see a solution to this. Since the beginning of the Intifada, the lives of the Jews and the Arabs have changed. The Jews and the Arabs are afraid to leave their homes, and our lives have become normalcy to who is going to die that day. My opinions have grown at this camp, and I feel the only solution is to take the land of Israel and split it into two countries. One side the Arabs and on the other side the Jews. On every side there are people that are extreme, and they want all the land. Until they will have it, it won't be pleased. So many times there were bombings in places where I go a lot. For example, 1 month ago there was an explosion near the mall in Netanya. We go there a lot, and my mom and I were supposed to be there that day. I was really scared when I heard about the bombing because I could have been killed. Also, just a few days ago, there was shooting on a bus in Shufaram, an Arab Israeli village. The man who shot people was an Israeli soldier. My dad works there, and one of his employees warned him after the shooting to leave because he's a Jew who works in an Arab community. Both of those examples show that the violence comes from both sides. It's so hard for me to hear some people's opinions. I love Israel. It's my home, it's my love, it's my family. Each day I hear conversation of my parents and their fears about my brother who is in the army. I will never apologize about my rights to live in this country that my grandparents built in their own hands. No soldier enjoys being in Gaza or Ramallah or the checkpoints, and no family like mine is enjoying worrying about the children's life each day. But it's the only way to prevent suicide bombers and give a feeling of safety to the citizens of Israel, Jews and Arabs as one. I wish someday that we could live in peace, and I hope that the suffering of my grandparents and all the Israeli people will end. I hope I can play a small part in this.
Hi, I am an Arabic girl who was born in Haifa. Haifa is a big city in the north of Israel. In Haifa, there are the three religions, the Christians, the Muslims, and the Jews. We all live peacefully and everybody respects others. I study in an Italian school. It's a Christian school, but we also have Muslims and 3 Jewish girls. One of the most beautiful places that I love is Jerusalem. I go there every other month. Jerusalem is a big and beautiful city. I go there to pray and also to shop. Every time I go, I always hear a voice in my head that says to me to be careful or not to go at all. It's not that I am afraid, but I always hear that voice. I'm not afraid because I always go where the Arabs live, and I don't think that they are going to bomb themselves, so I feel a little bit safer. The church where I go to pray is the church where the Sacred Heart of Jesus. When I go to Jerusalem and see the Arabs living with others peacefully, I still have the hope that each day we can live in peace together. I think that Jerusalem is a beautiful city. So I feel sorry that the Palestinians can't go to visit there. I think that the government doesn't have the right to forbid any person to visit the city. I think that Jerusalem is a city that belongs to the Arab people, but if we put all of these thoughts away, like Jerusalem belongs to Arab or to Jews, the two nations can live together. I have heard about the Holocaust a lot, and I also learned about it in school. I know that Hitler killed Jews without reason. In my opinion, he was a crazy man. The small groups of Jews that were rescued from Hitler's hand came to our land of the Arabs and lived there. In 1948, the Israelis came to Palestine, where my grandfather lived. The Israelis kicked out all the people that were in his village called Biram. They took her lands and homes and built new Jewish villages in the place of the Palestinians' ones. My grandfather lived in Biram until he was 7 years old. The Israelis always promised the people and my grandfather that they would give back the land, but after 58 years, my grandfather is still waiting to get his lands back. The Jews have now become 6 million people living in a country that does not belong to them. I think that the Israeli government and the soldiers are doing to us what Hitler did to them. It's like they are taking revenge. I feel sorry about what Hitler did in the past, and now I feel so sorry about what the Israeli government is doing today. Well, I can live with another person, but I don't have to agree with his ideas. I can just listen to him and say, okay, well, it's your opinion, let's keep living like we are, and that's that. I use this example about Israel and Palestine. Not one of the two countries wants to give up, and not one of the two countries wants to get out. So these two countries can live together without war, and each one with his things. But unfortunately, the government doesn't think as I do, or like other people do, who want peace so much. The government does all these complicated things. We can just hope for peace and wait and see what comes.
I remember one time when I was little. I was in the living room with some friends. My mother was putting makeup on us for fun. Suddenly, there was the loud siren, and my mom took all of us quickly to the bomb shelter. We had to sit in this small room, and then my mother and father's friend went to bring all of us food. I was really worried for her, and it seems like forever until she came back. When the Intifada started, I live in the south. The rockets fell in my area, but it seems far away until one day a rocket fell in the kibbutz where I studied. Later, we went back to Kiryat Shmona. There was a time when almost every day we heard the rockets fly above us. I tried not giving this too much attention, but it was scary to be alone in the house and hear the booming of the rockets. One time, we went to an Arab village for my school volleyball game, and in the middle, our coach told us that might be Katyusha rockets falling at home. Tears started to fall down my face. Another time, we were on our way to a game in a different Arab village, and we were told that there is a suspicion of a terrorist penetrating into Kiryat Shmona. All the people were ordered to return to their home and stay there. I was alone in my house and scared. I spent a lot of time with my grandmother, and she discussed a lot of things, including her life in Germany. The Holocaust is a horrible thing that happened to the Jewish people and changed the essence of the Jewish nation. My grandparents suffer in it, and my grandmother wrote a whole book about what happened to her during this time. Today, people use terms from the Holocaust and compare it to other things. This is the most despicable thing I feel you can do. It makes me very angry, and it causes an indescribable feelings. This is the reason that Israel is so important to us, and I think we should learn the history and the process that caused the Holocaust to understand it. This year, I saw a play with my theater class, and there was an ex-soldier in the play that talked about standing at checkpoints when he served in the army. Serving at checkpoints affected a man and made him cruel in a way that he didn't think was possible. Being in the territories made him cynical and apathetic. He traveled to India after the army, like many ex-soldiers Israelis, and made a spiritual journey for himself. But it was only a cover in different clothes. These young Israeli men are normal, full of life and happy, but the situation of standing at checkpoints changed them. The soldiers are 18 to 20 years old, and they have so many responsibilities. if they don't stop a suicide bomber from entering Israel, they will be responsible for the bombing. They are afraid that if they don't check people well enough, a bomber will get through. Doing this so many times a day make people apathetic. The soldiers did things they never would have done. When I will be in the army, I want to stand at checkpoints to make sure that bad behavior won't happen. My land is Israel, and no one is going to take it away from me. It's my home, and the home that my grandparents have fought for, the land my grandparents built on, and my grandparents put sweat, blood, and tears on. My home forever. My friends, my history, my beliefs, the Bible, the place I know, the place I feel comfortable in, the place with the most difficult and complicated problems in the world. But for me, it's obvious. This is the place I want to live in. My memories. I live in 3 areas of Israel and I saw almost all of it. I love to travel in Israel and I get this interest from my parents. Israel is traditions, joke, humor, barbecues, Independence Day, Passover. The more I write, the more connected I feel to Israel. I'm saying things now that I didn't know I felt, and they are so strong within me. I love Israel, and I'm in pain about what happened there.
I think the world is going crazy around us. Wars are everywhere. People are getting killed every day, and I feel like I fit in the middle of this. I don't know who I am or where I come from. It's actually hard for me to talk or write about my land because I feel I don't have any land. I don't feel like I belong to any place. It's like on one hand, I live in Israel, which is considered a Jewish country. I feel I'm unwanted there, the black sheep of the country. Who says that I don't want to be a normal citizen there? I pay taxes, I speak Hebrew. Isn't it enough? Or should I go into the army and serve there? On the other hand, I'm an Arab girl, but I don't live with Arabs. I don't speak Arabic all the time because people can't understand me. I wish that I would have land to belong to be free there, to be equal like everyone else, and to live in peace, but real peace. The word land or my land doesn't make sense to me. This comes from my heart, and I can't lie to myself. Who says that I want to continue being considered like the internal enemy from both of the sides? It seems to me that we are not going to live in peace anymore, because we still believe that we have enemies. Enemy, I abhor this word. I think that the real enemy of you is yourself. If you want to do whatever, if you want to believe that you have enemies, it's your problem. You have to fight yourself and do whatever your heart tells you, not what your brain tells you, because hearts are never wrong. It's time to say stop. We want to live. Stop your madness. Our grandparents taught us a lot of things, and we should learn from their experiences. A new generation will be born from us, and I will raise my children to think differently. Happiness is the greatest taste in the world. When I'm happy, I can see the bright side of life, and then I can make other people happy. But when I'm sad, I just want to die, and I see all dark in front of my eyes, like nothing is going right with me. Happy moments are forgotten more than sad ones. It's worth it to laugh and to have fun and to just be happy. We have only one life to live, so we must use it. And the dreams are the most important part. Dreams are something that come from the heart and where no one can judge you. Dreams are one of the things that makes me feel that life is really great and that I really have to continue my life the way I want. I have a lot of dreams, and I hope that they all will come true. I do believe that if I want something, I will get it. Even if it's hard, I don't tell myself that it's hard. I prefer to believe that there is nothing impossible. Everyone has the same right to dream, to think, and to choose the way he wants his life to be. Because really, life is the greatest gift that God gave us. I remember what happened to me one day. It's maybe going to be funny to you, but it's the example for what happened to me as a Palestinian girl, and I can't forget. One day, the Israeli army told us that after a couple of hours, they will attack Gaza, my city in Palestine, and the meaning of their attack, that they will attack us with tanks and shooting, and sometimes they enter into our homes and use our things and take our men and kick us out of our homes. It scared me a lot. I was terrified. I started to think about what's going to happen if the Israeli army kicks us out of the home. Oh my God, we will be in the streets without a home. Then I just think about a solution. Really, I want to prepare myself. And I came up with an idea to pack a bag with all the stuff that I may need if they kick me out. I put some food for myself and my family if we will be hungry, and all my personal things that I most like, and I don't want to lose them in their attack. I've also put some clothing, especially my praying clothes. And the most important thing that I put is the Quran, because when I feel afraid or I worry about something and feel unsaved, I read the Quran to feel comfortable and to ask God to protect me and my family, especially from the enemy's attacks. Also, I thought about the weather and about the cold. I get some blankets and warm things. I still thank God that the Israeli army hadn't come to us or to my family's homes. But I feel so sorry about myself that I was 13 years old. I feel so sorry that I was a child, and at that age, I worried about the army's attacks. That sometimes old people can't worry about all those heavy things. It's not supposed to happen to children. It's not fair to let a child feel all those fears. Really, not fair. The fear that Palestinian children feel every day and don't have the same normal childhood as every other child in this world.
Okay. Home. Land. What does it mean? Almost all of our life is based on material culture. What I feel as home is the place I feel safest in the world. This place for me is the house I live in Kahal, a small village in the north of Israel. My private home symbolizes many things, material and emotional. Almost all my life I have lived there and have many good memories, also a few bad ones. They all add up and are carved in my mind as good and happy memories, because even my bad memories make me who I am and who I will be in the future. For instance, last year I flew to India with my mom and younger brother to celebrate his bar mitzvah. In India, I had amazing experiences. The things I saw on the one hand, so much poverty, and on the other hand, so much joy. This was a turning point in my life. One day, we had a 10-hour drive, and I was petrified because roads are so narrow and full of cars. I simply said to my mom that if I get out alive, I would start believing in God. In India, I felt at home like I do in my home in Israel, especially in my room. I decorated it myself, from the color on the walls to the shape of the table, how it looks and where it stands. I am sad to talk about my room because my grandfather built me the table and the bookcase, and he died this year. It is difficult for me to deal with his death. That is why the furniture means so much to me and holds so many memories. I miss my grandfather very much, and it is difficult for me without him. I can't imagine how my birthday will be without him there. It is not only my room that is full of his memories, the whole house is full of his personal touch. The benches on the porch that I always sit on, the library, and many other things, and this is what makes my house so special to me. My father built the house, and my mom did the interior decorating. and works in the garden. The feeling of home is not only in my house, it is in my entire village. In the evenings, all the teenagers meet in our clubhouse, where we talk, laugh, and sing together. I love living in this quiet place, far from the noise and crowds of people. I do not suffer from bombings like most of the rest of the country, because not many people come to my small village. When I hear the news, I cannot believe why there is so much suffering on both sides. Not only for the Israelis, also for the Arabs and Palestinians. It is difficult to live in a country when every Monday and Thursday there is a suicide bombing, and so many people getting killed and wounded. It has not happened yet that a person from my family has been hurt, but I am so scared that it will happen. I don't think I could deal with another death of someone near to me. If you ask me if I have an enemy, I will say yes. I am my own enemy, not the Arabs, nor the Palestinians, or anyone else. Only me. It is me who hurts or forgives myself. It is me who decides what is good and what is bad. Me who makes decisions when to stop a fight, when to make up, and when to make peace.
My home, my love, my land. But really, I don't know what I'm talking about. I love it, I adore it, but I don't know what is it. Is it Israel or Palestine? Actually, I can't answer this question. Sure, Palestine is my love. My traditions and habits are Palestinian, but I live in Israel, and I have an Israeli identification. I also learn in Israeli school. So, am I Israeli, or shall I ignore my Israeli identity? I can't really ignore it. My voice may be able to ignore it, but my heart can't. I have a lot of dreams that I hope will come true. But I also fear that society will not give me the opportunity. I want to be a woman who helps her society to become free and to have a permanent identity. Sometimes I feel I'm strangled because I don't know who I am. But I'm always try to help myself because I was never weak, and I will not be weak now. But I'm confused whether I'm Israeli or Palestinian. When I was in Egypt, I met a Palestinian person who lived in Egypt, and I told him with a smile that I'm an Arab Israeli girl. He looked at me like he wanted to kill me, but I don't know how to say what I felt when he said to me, "You, Arab Israeli people, hate the Palestinians like the Jewish." I was so surprised from his talking, and immediately I walked away and started to cry without saying anything to him. I had another experience at the airport with my father. There were a lot of Jewish there, and they all passed easily without problems. But it took the Arabic people a lot of time just to pass the first gate. When they asked us where we lived, we said that we are from Al-Fahim, and Israeli security stopped us. After 1 hour, a person from the security came and asked me questions for a long time that made me so tired and so nervous. I asked myself, is this happening to me because I'm an Arabic girl living in Israel? The Palestinians look at me like I hate them, and the Israelis look at me like I hate them too. What can I do? Shall I remain silent all the time? Or should I look for another identity and call it nothing or no identity?
Imagine there's no countries. It isn't hard to do. nothing to kill or die for, and no religion too. Imagine all the people living life in peace. Ooh, ooh, ooh. You may say I'm a dreamer, but you're not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us.